Okay, folks, this is attorney Nate Amendola. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about license suspensions if you get arrested or charged with an OUI. So getting arrested or charged with impaired driving is likely going to have an impact on your driver's license. There are a few basics to understand, so let's start there. The first thing that you need to know is that when you have license implications for impaired driving, it's the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles. That's the entity that's going to be making these suspensions, okay? You also need to know that if you have a Massachusetts driver's license, your right to operate in Massachusetts will be suspended. The RMV will likely tell other states that your license is suspended, and your right to operate in other states will likely be suspended. What that means in plain English is Massachusetts is going to suspend your right to drive, and it will likely be suspended in all other states. If you have a driver's license from another state, like Vermont, it's the same situation. Massachusetts is going to suspend your right to operate in Massachusetts and tell Vermont about it. So the next thing you need to know is that there are suspensions for refusing the breathalyzer, okay? There are suspensions for taking the breathalyzer and failing it, and then there are suspensions for getting convicted or taking a continuance without a finding. So let's go over these a little bit, okay? You should know that in Massachusetts, we're unique in that you have the right to refuse the breathalyzer in Massachusetts. You do not need to take it. You may refuse it. Many people don't know that. Now, I can't tell you to refuse it because I can't give you legal advice, and every situation is different. But you should know that if you do refuse the breathalyzer, as you can imagine, that will result in less evidence that the Commonwealth has in their case against you, okay? But you should also know if you refuse to take the breathalyzer, it's going to come with penalties. So it's a little complicated, but here are the basics. If you have no OUI convictions in any state, okay, this is your first time and you refuse to take the breath test, your license will be suspended for 6 months, 180 days. If you have any other OUI convictions, for example, this is your second offense, and you refuse the breath test, your license is going to be suspended for 3 years. Now, there are things you can do to get your license back, like winning your case, but we'll talk about that in another video. You also need to know that the legal limit in Massachusetts is 0.08. So if you do consent to the breath test, okay, and you blow 0.8 or higher, your license will be suspended for 30 days, okay? Now, license issues are complicated because they often hinge on how many priors you have, okay? If you are convicted of an OUI or take the 24D program, your license will be suspended for 45 to 90 days. So again, this is after those suspensions I just mentioned. If you are convicted, you will lose your license for 45 to 90 days. Now, you must remember that once this suspension period ends, you still can't drive. You must go back to the RMV and get your license reinstated with a hearings officer. There's a cost associated with this, and it ranges from $500 to $1,200. So remember, even after your suspension period has run, you are not automatically eligible to drive. A lot of folks get this wrong and then get pulled over and get arrested for driving on a suspended license. That's not something that you want to happen. So if your license has been suspended and the suspension period is run, remember, you have to go back to the RMV to get your license reinstated with a hearings officer.